Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be able to look at another Donnie Yen film, and that is Killzone. It's otherwise known as SPL, Shopalung. Made in 2005 and starring, as I mentioned, Donnie Yen, Simon Yam, and of course the big guy himself, my main dude, my all-time favourite Kung Fu, 80s, Hong Kong, 90s, whenever, favourite Kung Fu star of all time, Sammo Hung. Now, that was really the big thing with this movie. That was the selling point with Killzone, Shopalung. That was the big thing. It was Donnie Yen and Sammo Hung. This was really what was the selling point of the movie. It was a huge part of what made the film gain momentum and attracted audiences. Directed by Wilson Yip, who has worked with Donnie Yen many times on films like Dragon Tiger Gate, done Flashpoint, which I reviewed previously, and of course most notably the Ip Man movies, the Ip Man series, which I think probably by and large is Donnie Yen's probably his most famous films. I think Ip Man is probably up there. I think it definitely gave Donnie Yen a lot more attention, definitely drew people that weren't already familiar with Donnie Yen into Donnie Yen. Obviously I was a fan of him for ages, watching films like Tiger Cage 2 and Drunken Tai Chi and all these classic Donnie Yen movies, but I think it's pretty much Ip Man and that combination working with director Wilson Yip that really put him on the map. Now, like with my Flashpoint movie review, this is one of them movies that is very simple, to the point. Here are the good guys, here are the bad guys, and let's just have an hour and a half of good fun. Of course, any film with Donnie Yen and Sammo Hung in, it was always going to be good. Obviously, they reunited for Ip Man 2. This film, I know there was a sequel starring Tony Jaa and a third movie starring Louis Koo, but they're all sort of unrelated, but all sort of part of the same type of theme of movie, if you get what I mean. A bit like the Yes Madams and In the Line of Duty, sort of that kind of thing. So how does Killzone stack up? Well, as I mentioned, this was directed by Wilson Yip, and at the same time, this was the movie he was sort of, at that point, it was sort of, this was his most acclaimed work up to that point, and in many ways, this was the movie that was really sort of, the whole idea of it, I think, was to sort of take us back to that golden age of Hong Kong action cinema, as well as at the same time as that, sort of bring it slap bang up to date in terms of the action and things like that. But I think that was the sort of the premise or the motivation behind doing this. And like I say, like with Flashpoint, very simple, very to the point, very sort of, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys, let's go, you know. So you have to remember as well that Donnie Yen up to this point was sometimes taking on villain roles or bit parts in movies. Like Donnie, he was doing Blade 2, Hero, Shanghai Nights, and yes, I know he had done sort of leading roles like Tiger Cage 2, Drunken Tai Chi, Legend of the Wolf, but this in many ways was the film that I think this film, by and large, Killzone, was the film that sort of cemented Donnie Yen as a leading man and shown that he is a force going forward, and if anything he's getting better and coming very much into his prime here. And I think really very much the pairing of him and Wilson Yip work really well together, and probably why they've teamed up for multiple movies, as they seem to sort of understand exactly what they want and how, like, what they want to achieve. And they sort of, I think, pair of them just sort of have a no nonsense approach when it comes to filmmaking and the action they want to do. But as I say, like even the movie Wing Chun, directed by Yuen Woo-ping and starring Michelle Yeoh, Donnie Yen is very much sort of on the side there as well. Like even Iron Monkey with Yurong Guang, on the side again. Donnie Yen, unfortunately, he never really got sort of big as he should have done, sort of in the 90s. He still was a star, but he wasn't like sort of Jackie Chan big, he wasn't sort of like Sammo Hung big. And I think Donnie Yen was one of these people, like I think he sort of come into his own sort of the older he got, and I think Killzone is a perfect example. I think this was very, in many ways, Killzone was sort of like Donnie Yen ready now. Like this was Donnie, right? I'm ready to take on, to have bigger roles, have leading roles. I'm ready to be that leading man, and it really does pay off in that respect. So, like I say, with Flashpoint, it's a non-stop action film, but believe you me, with the action it's not non-stop is what I mean. Didn't mean to say it's non-stop. It's not like it is non-stop action, but believe you me, when the action does happen, you know about it, and it hits hard and it hits fast. then punches and kicks land, and with Sammo there too, sort of like, and it in many ways like Killzone SPL, it's sort of like handing over, so to speak, like the older great kung fu star, sort of, sort of handing over the baton to sort of the younger star, sort of this new generation. It's hard to think, even now, it's hard to think this film is like 18, 19 years old at this point. 17, 18 years old around that time. So the film sort of opens with like this car accident, and I love the pullback Wilson Yip does with the cameras. Like you see a loose rolling tyre come into frame, and we meet Sammo Hung's character, Wong Po. And who in this is very much like he's sort of his character in this I always associate sort of something like a villain, a real life person, like from Final Fight or something like that, or from Streets of Rage. Like an end boss, like from Streets of Rage or something like that. And then we get a flashback of sort of what happened in this car crash, and these were people on their way to give evidence in court about Wong Po, but were ambushed, one even getting his throat cut, and because of the lack of evidence and testimony, Wong Po is like sort of acquitted. Simon Yam was a cop in the car, assuring them everything was going to be fine. Simon Yam's character, Inspector Chan, at the hospital comforts their crying child. And I love how after this, Chan just finds Wong Po and starts ramming his car, after which they go to do battle with golf clubs. And you can already tell Wong Po is under Inspector Chan's skin. Like, Inspector Chan hates this guy, right? And Simon Yam plays the part really well as that sort of determined cop, wanting to take him down, wanting to, pay for his crimes and things like that. But they get into like a sort of, he just goes after him, starts ramming his car. Then the golf clubs come out. It's the age-old thing, isn't it? He's just determined to pull this guy behind bars. He's a bad dude, and that really is all you need to know about Sammo's character, and that's sort of really all we ever do know. I mean, they do flesh him out a little bit, like Sammo's wife has a miscarriage, and after checking him over post the accident, the doctor finds a tumour in sort of Inspector Chan's brain. And it's amazing how little we get to know about Wong Po. He's just like this big bad dude, unfortunately. I mean, Sammo Hung, he's a presence in the film, make no mistake about it. And like I say, there are little efforts there to flesh him out a little bit. But by and large, he's a bad guy just because that's your bad guy. That's your villain. And I love when Chan says, for a cop, death is not the worst thing, but being bullied by the bad guy is, implying like sort of he will go above and beyond to get the sucker, which I think is quite a cool line. Death is not the biggest thing we have to fear, but like letting that bad guy get away is the thing we should fear. I say, implying he will go above and beyond. So we fast forward 3 years, and Chan is retiring. We then meet Donnie Yen's Inspector Ma, accompanied by a guitar score, of course, and we learn that his character is hard. Basically, he once made a guy mentally handicapped by like a single punch, and we'd learn that he's a physical guy, right? He's known for his unorthodox methods and things like that. They try and make Donnie's reputation and introduction as cool as possible, which is quite awesome. They try and Donnie always comes to me across someone who's like quite fly, like he's super suave, Donnie Yen, and that, like I say, they succeed. Donnie's like, he's posing, he's almost like modelling sometimes in this movie, with like sort of the pose and the way he's sort of holding himself. I say sort of through most of the movie, I mean, he is allowed. It's Donnie Yen after all. He has his leather jacket on, his hair's looking awesome, you name it. He looks the business basically in this movie. So Yam and his team go and raid one of Wong Po's operations. We have an undercover cop there too. The daughter from the car crash now calls Inspector Chan dad, as she can't remember anything previously. Yam shows Donnie Yen his district, as his character is he's sort of taken over from Inspector Chan, as I mentioned. Like he's got like a brain tumour in his head, and sort of Donnie Yen's now he's retiring. Donnie Yen is sort of taking his place. Absolutely love the scene where Yan makes this punk take his shoes off and walk on broken glass. Then you hear sort of this clinking of a bottle in the background. Simon Yam sort of dealing with these punks, and then you hear like this clinking of a bottle, and of course it's Sammo. Sammo comes out, sort of. You hear this clean and Wong Po, and it goes silent, and as he approaches is where like it's basically his turf right after midnight. So they find the undercover cop dead on a super bright and sunny day, and Donnie for some reason is the only one actually wearing sunglasses. It's like the brightest day I've ever seen, and like only Donnie Yen thought to bring his sunglasses with him. Turns out a kid accidentally filmed the murder of like their fallen cop, and that he takes the tape to the police. Though the only snag is it doesn't actually show Wong Po making the kill, and Yam is like erased the part of the gunshot, which sort of one of his goons was the one who actually killed him, and they want to make it look like sort of Wong Po did it. Anything to get something on this guy, right? I love Chan's buddy Wah, played by Liu Ka-chi, as he's such a hothead and very protective of Chan, and he's a wonderful little side character we get here. He does go to the kid's house, and he's very, like, this guy goes to the kid's house who's sort of done the recorded what happened, the murder, and he's sort of very nasty to him, looking for another copy of the video, which the kid actually hides from him. Like I mentioned, it's not fight in this movie, okay? It's not relentless fight, right, kung fu fight, a little bit of talking fight. It's not like that at all. I think this is where Wilson Yip and Donnie are very clever. Like, it gets you invested first, then the good stuff and the bone breaking will come. You know, like I say, I keep comparing it to Flashpoint, but it's sort of like that. You have the sort of the simple story, the sort of simple setup, you get invested, then the hard stuff comes in. So they bring Wong Po in after a cool but brief fight scene, and of course he is super pissed at this point, as it is like his son's 1 month birthday. It's incredible how Sammo can pull off that threatening, imitating role as well. So like, he does it so well, and Sammo in this film really does embrace that villainous role completely. Yam and his team go after the guy who shot their team, and like they start beating the crap out of him with pipes. After he falls to his death, Donnie witnesses it and starts beating the crap out of Yam's team. His character Ma still feels guilty about the guy. If you remember, I said he hit a guy so hard it sort of made him sort of mentally handicapped. Ma still feels guilty about that. And he sort of regularly meets up with the guy to play video games with him. He is constantly carrying around this guilt and this burden. So there are efforts there to sort of flesh these characters out a little bit, just to give them bits of padding, which does help. They make a huge point of it being Father's Day, and Sammo's guys have found the kid who has a copy of the tape. It's always about a tape, isn't it? It's always about a tape or a recording or an audio. Or it's always a tape. So Donnie's character is pretty much on the sidelines, like I mentioned, for a vast majority of the movie, and it really is, for the most part, a Simon Yam film, who carries the movie for the most part, especially the first third of the movie. Not taking anything away from Donnie, but it's every bit much a Simon Yan film as it is like sort of a Donnie Yen film. Sammo is released after the tape is brought in. One of Chan's buddies, Arlok, gets set up and ambushed by this crazed killer in white, played by Wu Jing, who unleashed some furious punches and great flips, then proceeds to sort of slice this guy's throat. There are real tender and sweet moments in the movie too, like when Wah, the hothead, realises his father died, when he rings his mum. As I say, this film really does make a point of Father's Day and being a dad and things like if you remember, like I say, Inspector Chan has taken in the little girl as well. And like I say, he phones up his mum despite he learns his father's died. When Wah phones him, despite the fact they weren't close, he still loved him. Then the film throws you a curveball with him getting stabbed brutally by Wu Jing, which I didn't see coming. I did not see coming, but because you start to warm to this guy, they give him because like I say, he's a bit of a hothead. They give him this really sweet, tender moment, and then Wu Jing just comes along and just like stabs him. He admits to Donnie that they stole some of Wong Po's money on the raid that they did earlier. Wonderful scene where Ma is telling Chan about his father's death and how he doesn't believe in fate. And it's a real nice moment between the two, and Simon Yam and Donnie Yen in this film, perfect, really work well together. Ma says he will take the money back to Wong Po, which is in the boot of his car. And of course, we have the classic, the cop putting down his badge and his gun in front of the boss in order so he can do what is right. I'm not a cop right now. I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. I'm not under your jurisdiction. There's your badge. There's your gun. I'm doing this. Yam walks in with Sammo's money at his sort of hideout and doesn't seem to do... Like, Wong Po in this movie doesn't really do much. He doesn't really... Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Sammo. He's perfect in it. He's fine. But the character of Wong Po, he doesn't actually do much. He just sort of sits there or stands there or smokes or whatever. He's just sort of there. So he walks in and it escalates very quickly and he starts shooting Wong Po's men and getting stabbed. So I'm not entirely sure what the plan was, or even if Inspector Chan had even thought this through completely. So so it didn't really work out whatever they were going to do. So Po calls Donnie and Wu Jing is waiting for him down an alley, and Donnie here going back to sort of his Tiger Cage 2 roots with knives and swordplay. And many have said this part of the movie is one of the best knife fights that has ever been put on film. like one of the best you will ever see, and believe you me, it's up there. Like it is up there. I'm sure you can watch it on YouTube. I'm sure somebody's uploaded it. But a lot of Donnie's moves here. We get feints, we get timing. The rhythm reminds me, when you look at Donnie's rhythm in this fight scene, it reminds me very much of how Bruce Lee sort of held himself. I know, obviously, Bruce Lee is huge inspiration on Donnie Yen, but the sort of his feints and his moves and sort of the things he's doing, it really does remind me of Bruce Lee from Game of Death. Game of Death in particular is definitely sort of his sort of channeling that, I should say. But as I say, one of the best knife fights you will ever see. Really, really amazing. Although I wish it was longer. This is one of them scenes where it's like, you know, when it's like you think. You see some films, they do a sword fight or a knife fight. You think, yeah, it's okay, or yeah, that was quite cool. But this is one of them films. It's like, this is how you do the knife on film. This is how you do a knife fight on film. Truly, truly amazing stuff. A bit like in Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon, when Sammo uses the sticks. That's how you do the sticks on film. That's how you do a stick fight. And very much the same with Donnie here and the knife. So Yam is now strung up at one pose. Again, not sure what the plan was. Donnie walks in for the first time without his leather jacket, so you know he means business at this point, right? The jacket is off. The jacket has come off. Donnie means business. As I say, all Wong Po seems to do is stand there smoking a lot of cigars. I wish they could have just fleshed his character out just a tiny bit more, just to give him a bit more context. As I say, Sammo is a force, he's a presence. But I think, like I say, with Wilson Yip and Donnie Yen, they do have a sort of a no-nonsense thing in terms of filmmaking, especially when you look at this and sort of Flashpoint. Very simple films. Very, very simple films. Not action all the way through, like I say, but when the action happens, it's like, it's incredible choreography. But Wong Po, unfortunately, in this, is not fleshed out too much. I wish they would have just gone into his character a bit more. So then we have the fight. I mean, what do you need to know, right? It's Donnie Yen versus Sammo Hung. It's going to be good. It's going to be awesome, and it is. It really is. We get everything here as you would expect. We get kicks, we get throws, we get grapples, you name it. And I'm not sure why Wong Po has no other men to hand, like sort of, excuse me, when Donnie comes in, as I thought he had loads of hands under his power, but for whatever reason, he has no help at all at this point. Like, he's got no men around. So it's just sort of a one-on-one fight. I thought he had like sort of loads of fighters under his power. Absolutely love the kick Donnie does on him, sending him flying into the bar. And like I say, they must have enjoyed working together, Sammo and Donnie, working together again on Ip Man 2. So this bottle display gets destroyed by them both, and Donnie pours himself a drink on a job well done. And have to love how they didn't forget their bruises, because Ma's face is messed up after the fight. Like, his face is totally and utterly messed up. Totally destroyed. Suddenly Wong Po comes to and throws Donnie out the window and into a car that had Wong Po's wife and child in it, and didn't even know where they, like, I didn't even know that actually they were so high up, and I definitely didn't think they would have killed Donnie Yen off. Reminds me sort of like the first Tiger Cage. I didn't think they were going to kill Ma off, but they do. But it really is sort of karma, fate, that kind of thing. He throws Donnie out onto this car, which just so happens to have his wife and child, and it really is a wonderful performance from Sammo as that main mean, moody villain. And the whole film ends on a downer as Yam ends up dying too from his tumour. Sammo doesn't die, but he sort of lost his wife and his child, and was him that killed them both. So at the end of the movie, it's one of them sort of, nobody actually wins at the end of this movie at all. Nobody wins at all. This isn't a happy ending kind of movie. Though I love this movie, and it's great watching Donnie, Sammo and Simon Yam putting in amazing performances as you would expect. The action is top notch. To me personally though, I think Flashpoint surpasses this. I think Flashpoint is a bit of a better movie in terms of Donnie Yen action flick, but make no mistake, Killzone is very, very much worth checking out and a must-see, and you could look at it at a more gritty, modern, more dramatic take and sort of the golden age of Hong Kong action cinema, and that is no bad thing. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.